He really looks like oh, by the way, I don't know if I introduced myself, and I'm just saying this because I host the Katie Halper show. I'm saying this because earlier on you you mentioned that this is a big week for Daniel Bessner, and I'm like, well, it got even bigger because I'm apparently having him on Thursday too. And Rania, I'm watching Daniel's face that like did not track for a while. Did you forget that we had done that? Or anyway,
I think it's a little bit high, but that's okay.
Okay.
I just look at every day. I take it one day at a time. I'm very sad.
Yeah.
I wake up.
But also Ben's going to be on regularly, and Rania's been on a bunch. So I'm just reminding people that to support these shows, and also really important to support foreign policy, critical foreign policy voices. So this is a really important show, and also just want to give a shout out to Kevin Gostola, Eugene Puryear, Max Blumenthal, Aaron Mate, Anya Parampil, and
you're gonna make some people mad.
I know, but I was thinking like there are people who I'm thinking of the people who I often ask questions to about this and how marginalized a lot of them are, and it's really important because they actually go to these places and do the work and call them whatever you want. They're still good. So I'm using this space to amplify their voices.
Yes, but then what about all the ones you erased because you forgot to amplify them?
That was like a huge act of erasure.
You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, like Samantha Power, I should have elevated her. Yeah, yeah, because she is a woman.
Yeah, I think Samantha Power's probably been elevated enough, but
I mean, I also do want to give her a shout out for one of the best things that she said so far. Is there's this policy? There is now a family identity politics where everyone's excited because, as Samantha Power said about Tony Blinken, it is don't let this get lost. He is a new father. And it's amazing. I'm not kidding. He's a new father. Like, it's amazing to have a working dad in this administration. Like, okay, hold on. First of all, his wife is named Evan. So I think maybe she was trying to woke wash because she mentioned how wonderful Tony and Evan are. And I think he was banking on people thinking Evan is a guy. But also, like, we don't live in a world where men are expected to stay home when they have kids. So I don't know what weird.
I'm sure Eisenhower had people in his administration, whose wives were taking care of young kids at home.
Yeah,
that's not some sort of representation.
Yeah.
Weird. It's
so weird. And also imagine all those new dads who are like newly non-dadded thanks to like all the policies in Libya, right? So like I'm glad someone has their kids around.
No, it's a fundamental problem with all of this humanitarian interventionism. One, it's that people send children not their own. And two, it's to protect children who they often wind up not protecting it. It's a foundational tension to some. I strongly recommend people read Samantha Power's book, or at least my review of it, because this is the type of thing that she is constantly doing this throughout the book about how she's a young mother, how she's a woman, how she's, so concerned with children and blah, 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 blah. And it's in support.
Rwanda. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. In Rwanda, and she's in Bosnia. And not to say, these things are all horrible, right? But it's just totally divorced from the actual realities, or more importantly, the history of what happens in all of these places, and the imperial death machine that she, for some reason, thinks is going to be able to be the savior of the world. It's so weird.
This is a very liberal tactic too. You don't see this so much under Republicans, but this is a very Democratic tactic. They did it all through the Obama years, is really using the humanitarian intervention responsibility to protect like that whole tool that Samantha Power is like a huge advocate of.
I do like her for calling Hillary Clinton a monster, right? Didn't she do that?
She called Hillary Clinton a monster?
I think so. Didn't she?
Wait, was it for the right reason or the wrong? Was it like because Hillary Clinton
wrong reason?
Campaign thing. It was during the campaign of 2008 when Power, who had actually volunteered to work in Obama's Senate office, like they got connected through Harvard, I believe. But it was during the campaign, and she was being interviewed by, I believe, an Irish or a Scottish journalist, and she said it was a hot mic. Where she basically referred to Hillary as like for a campaign thing, not for any policy.
Oh yeah, obviously, yeah.
She was sidelined on the campaign, and then once he won, she was brought back.
Hillary was a monster during that campaign.
She is a monster.
Well, yeah,
Hillary,
no, but it is amazing how little people remember like what that campaign was like. That like she was almost doing proto-Trump stuff.
Birther, she was spreading the birther thing.
Yeah,
basically.
she did the birther thing. She said
The
that
pastor thing.
that hardworking white people, were her base.
Bill Clinton compared Jesse Jackson winning the primary to a primary in South Carolina to Obama.
She said that even after Obama had gotten up the delegate threshold, she said, well, he could be assassinated.
No. Here's what she said. She refused to drop out, and she was asked, so you don't buy that party unity stuff? She goes, no, I don't, because my husband didn't get the nomination until June. June, the month that Bobby Kennedy. We all remember what happened to Bobby Kennedy. It was like Bill Clinton knows how to be a terrible person in a very suave way. Hillary Clinton cannot do it. So it was just cringe. She had to apologize because it was very clear that she was basically saying that,
she's so stilted.
She's so bad at it. Yeah.
Much more clearly.
And he just knows how to, what is it? You can turn a sow's ear into silk or something, like this old expression, probably comes from Arkansas, honestly. But yeah, he definitely, she was basically saying, I can't drop out because, Bobby Kennedy was killed. And of course, implicit in that is the fact that Obama was required more security than any other candidates. Obviously, there was so many death threats. There were so many death threats against him, thanks to the combination of racism and Islamophobia. And then Bill Clinton was asked about this. Sorry, I don't mean to go down the Clinton rabbit hole. I'll just wrap it up quickly. But Bill Clinton was asked about whether he regretted the Jesse Jackson comments, and he said no, he didn't, and that the campaign was playing the race card. And then he said that on the radio, okay? He said that on radio, and it wasn't lost or burned in a fire. It was transmitted onto the radio. And then the next day, he was asked on camera, which also was not in a fire. So all of this documentation exists. He was asked on camera what he meant when he said that they were playing the race card. And he said, when did I say that? And to whom did I say that? So again, he gets away with it, kind of, and Hillary doesn't because she's not. And no, this is not a sexism issue. She's not a good liar, and he is. Yeah,
which is amazing because I'm told the post-truth era didn't start until 2016. So
it's true. They were pioneers.
Yeah, there we go.
Why are you erasing the Clintons? Both her as a woman, and he is, of course, of the not non-rich person. So yeah,
cut to this video being shown in a re-education camp.
They're such bad people.
They're so bad. They both do this thing, but again,
they are monstrous people. I mean,
they are.
Obviously.
That's unfair to monsters, Ben.
Yeah, Clinton. Welfare reform was a humanitarian, disaster for many single mothers and it was that was really disturbing Dickensian stuff that's been largely memory hold. And then of course the overseas monstrousness was on an entirely different level. I mean, Madeleine Albright, as Clinton's Secretary of State, famously said, she was asked point blank, 500,000 Iraqi children have died because of the sanctions. Is it worth it? And she said, yeah, it's worth it. That was the Clinton administration, and then of course off the clock he's just flying around with Jeffrey Epstein. So I mean, this
right, and on the clock flying around to execute a mentally disabled black man, Ricky Ray Rector.
Willie Ray Rector.
And you wonder why so many people are willing to believe crazy conspiracies about them.
This is what in that. That episode that's dropping for patrons on Thursday, but we already recorded it with Daniel and Amber Frost. Talking about their Jacobin piece.
Excellent article, by the way. I read that. The Jacobin article. Yeah. Very, very good.
Yeah. Sad to report, but
yeah, I mean, it was very good. And one of and that's a point they make in there that I mean, it's not hard to see where people could get the idea that it sounds plausible that you'd have an international cabal of pedophiles involving powerful and well-connected people. They got the details wrong, but it's,
Matt Christmas was on my show saying this the other day, how at least Q people, they do some work, they put some work into it. It's more believable than Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi saying that they wanted to see Trump's phone records to see if he was on the phone with Putin during the storming of the Capitol.
You know what's crazy about the storming of the Capitol? You know what's crazy about this?
They said it out loud on a podcast, on Hillary Clinton's podcast. Did you guys hear about this? It's insane.
Yeah. No, but what was crazy, what I think the craziest part about the storming of the Capitol to me, or the part that I'll continue to wonder or think about, it will continue to come up in my mind, is like the fear that all those Democratic lawmakers and some Republican lawmakers felt because of the rioters outside. And they should feel fear. Those people were really scary, right? And they were like calling for hanging Mike Pence or whatever. But I won't comment on whether that's okay. Anyways, moving on. My point is that so many of those Democratic lawmakers are so supportive of those kinds of like that same sort of sentiment and like rioting and like attacking government officials in adversary countries. And sometimes we fund them and support them. And the reason so you just put up a comment that somebody who was watching noted about Gaddafi. The U.S. intervened in Libya and literally through NATO gave air cover to a bunch of extremists who murdered this guy on camera, with a bayonet. And it was really brutal. She laughed about it. And so it's just like really jarring to me to like see that sort of behavior and then the horror they feel when even lesser versions. Like I wouldn't even call the people who were outside the Capitol anywhere near the people who were armed in Libya and shoving a bayonet.
Literally.
I
mean, look, I wrote an article with Daniel about about January 6th and why we didn't think that like it was reasonable or sane to say that that it was like literally a threat to like end democracy and impose fascism or something. That wouldn't have happened. But you could have totally had murders of lawmakers. That could have happened, then, but then, I think that somebody, I'm sure somebody could say, oh, but that's totally different because because this
It's right when they did it over there.
There's a lot of that.
The way that they would do it is by saying, well, the difference is the U.S. is democracy, but then like you could say, but then you can, and I do want to do Iran before we move off to the Middle East, but I mean, just complete the thought. That certainly, especially when you start looking at Latin America, there's not only a long history of us doing that to other countries that are democracies, but a very recent one. People always want to like portray that as ancient Cold War history, but they. Yeah, right. But I mean, right. But the same way that, Chile happened in 1973 or, Guatemala in 54, the attempted coup against Chavez in Venezuela happened in 2002. The one against the democratically elected Zelaya, the president of Honduras.
Which we did not declare. What was that? 2008? Was that? When was that?
2011.
Yeah, which we did with Hillary would not declare a coup. Would not declare a coup and lied about the reasons. Yeah.
But this is amazing. In the first edition of her memoir, like her second memoir, the one that came out around then, in the first edition, she actually bragged about like diplomatic negotiations to make sure that this left-wing strongman Zelaya wasn't allowed to come back to power. And then the second edition.
A very good strongman if it was that easy to take him out.
I know, right? It seems like a weak man. But,
in his pajamas, they took him in his pajamas.
But then in the second edition, she removes that passage with no explanation. It's like 1984. Just goes down the memory hole.
I know the media didn't investigate. Like nobody looked into it and asked why. The media that actually has access to her never asked her why.
They didn't know. I mean, they couldn't care less, or they didn't know. Yeah. Can you imagine someone asking her, like, why did you remove that part? I mean, it's like.
Do you guys remember when she was like during the election against Bernie in 2016 at one point, or maybe it was in 2015, she was like, we have to send them back so that their parents stop.
We have to send a message. We have to send a message. Christiana Amanpour asked her about kids coming across the border. And what should be done with them, and she's like, we have to send them back to where they came from because we have to send a message. And of course, Amo Bernie was like, these are kids. Who are you going to send a message to? These are children. But that was wonderful.
Right. No, and obvious, which by the way is incredibly illegal because almost all of them had at least a prima facie plausible claim to refugee status.
They were fleeing Honduras. A third of those children were from Honduras.
Yeah,
But that was the most disgusting part of it.
exactly.
Yeah.
They were the
There were
disaster
three-
that she participated in causing.
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, which makes that particularly